Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get on with butchering the chicken. This one unfortunately has the wing tip missing. But here's our chicken. We got 2 breasts, 2 legs. The leg is separated into the drumstick and the thigh. And then 2 wings. And the wing is normally separated into the wing tip, the wing flat, and the drumette. And to start on this process of deboning a chicken for a chicken roulade, the first thing that we're going to do is to remove the wings. Then we're going to split down the back. And then I'm not sure if you can see on this, but there's these 2 ovals of flesh right here, which is part of the thigh and the leg. It's basically like the chicken's gluteus maximus. That is called the oyster. So we want to pay particular attention to those because we want to make sure that we get those off and that stays with the thigh. It's called the oyster for 2 reasons. It's kind of around the size and shape of an oyster, and it's also considered to be one of the most decadent pieces of chicken traditionally in French cuisine. Alright, so first thing we're going to do to remove the wings is going to grab the wing, pull it all the way back so it's nice and taut. It's 180 degrees, and then do a round cut around to get down to the joint. You want to be really careful not to get up into that breast meat. And then you're just going to come in between the wing joint right there, just around there. You should never have to cut through any bone. And we're not actually going to use the wings for this. The wing tips we'll use in the stock, but we can save the wings. If you wanted to, you could just roast them off. Same thing on the other side. Okay, so I'm going to save that wing tip because that I'm going to use for my stock. Alright, next thing, score all the way down along the back, and then we're going to release the skin just up to the oyster. Apart from this part, we're pretty much looking to have all the meat stay attached to the skin as much as possible. So now to get the oyster out, I'm going to come in at a real sharp angle and do 1 cut about 1/3 of the way around. I'm going to pull that oyster up and then at a bit more of a shallow angle, just get it scooped out of its little, basically like a little dip that it sits in there. Alright, next thing I need to do is I need to dislocate the thigh bone from the carcass. So I'm going to support the carcass as much as possible as I can with my right hand. My left hand, I'm going to pull that drumstick back, and using a rotating motion, I'm going to pop that bone up and out. And I'm going to cut down. See, as the thigh bone disconnected. Get that all cut away so that you need that hanging off down to the side, just like that. I don't want you to start on the other side yet. I want you to keep on this side. So next thing I'm going to do, now that's hanging off, you see if you don't have that hanging off down to the side, it's going to be right here. It's going to be really hard for you to work on your breast meat. So I'm rolling it over onto its side. The other leg is down on its side. So here's my breast. You can see a white line of fat. And down at the end to that white line of fat, you can feel the rib cage. You'll feel that very last bone. Under here, you'll feel the wishbone. And then all of that is the breast meat that we're looking to take off. So we're going to do a line from the wishbone to the bottom of the rib cage, and then just follow the rib cage around. And at the same time, go up the wishbone. And eventually we're going to hit the sternum right there. Once you hit the sternum, you're going to follow the sternum until you get to the skin. Once you can see the skin right there, you can see my fingers on the other side, then you're going to stop. That's one breast off. We got this leg detached, so now we're going to move on to the other side. Same thing. Release the skin up to the oyster. 1, 2 cuts to get the oyster out. Stick your thumb under the thigh bone, pull the drumstick back, and pop the thigh out of its socket. And just go around to make sure that leg is hanging off down to the side. Roll it over, white line of fat, wishbone, watch out for that cartilage, and then around the rib cage to the sternum, up along the wishbone. There we go. So you get the sternum, follow the sternum up. Alright, then finally I'm just going to take my knife, trace along the sternum to remove the carcass. Okay, a little bit of leftover offal there, put that off to the side. I came a little bit close to some of the cartilage on the rib cage there, so I'm going to get that off. Okay, so we've got the breast removed, so all we've got left to do now is to get the bones out of the legs. So I'm going to take my knife up through that drumstick skin and pick up the drumstick, and about an inch or so from the top I'm going to saw all the way through the skin and all those bits of connective tissue. I'm going to go down to the bone. Using my thumb and forefinger, I'm drawing the meat apart, also making sure to keep them out of the way of the knife. And pick up that drumstick and just pull that meat back. And then you want to make sure to watch out for that little splintery bone there on the drumstick. Okay. For the thigh, I'm just going to cut straight down to the bone, pull the meat back, work it off on either side. Then using my fingers, I'm just going to pull that bone away from the skin. And then I'm going to put the knife in through that hole, just carefully come around the cartilage at the end of the thigh bone. Now I've just got that last piece of cartilage to carefully work around, try to make sure I don't leave any cartilage in the middle, because that is going to be crunchy. I don't want a crunchy piece of cartilage in the middle of my roulade. Okay, so there's my bones. Same thing on the other side. Up through skin. Around the top of the drumstick. Down to the thigh, the drumstick bone. Pick the drumstick up and kind of cut and pull that meat back. Thigh bone, work it off on either side, put your knife in the hole, come around the cartilage, and then okay. And then you're just going to check, make sure there isn't any other little bits of cartilage in there. Any of these bits that you take off can go into the stock, so none of this is going to go to waste. Okay, if you see this white stuff, basically feel it. If it feels nice and soft, it's going to be fine. If it feels hard, then it's going to be crunchy, and you want to make sure to get that out of there. Just a teeny bit right there. Must have got too close to, looks like the thigh bone. All right. And don't worry, if you get some of these tendons and things from the end of the drumstick, that's going to actually pretty much melt away as we cook it. So for the time being, just going to fold the legs over the breasts, and I'm just going to put it aside, wrap it up, put it aside like that, because it's going to take a couple of hours to make the chicken stock. And then once the chicken stock is made, then you can think about getting this trussed and cooked off, or you could do it while the stock is cooking. And yeah, that's about that. So you can also often do this over several days, which is the way that we do it in class. Like I said, usually the first day basically we'll do this right here. The next day we'll make the stock, and then on the third day we'll make the chicken. But if you want to do the entire meal, I would say you should be able to do the whole thing probably over about 6 hours, with at least a couple of those hours being time that you're not actually working non-stop, where while the chicken stock is cooking, there's a little bit of other things that you could be getting on with. But you've got a couple, at least 2 hours, preferably 3-4 hours for the chicken stock to cook, where, you don't even probably necessarily even need to be in the house. All right, that's it for that one.